Have you ever stood in profound prayer only to find that your own mind is the loudest, most chaotic place in creation? Does the spirit of anxiety pursue you, chasing you out of the peace of the present and plunging you into dread of the future or shame over the past? It is a universal struggle of the soul, the constant internal noise, the despair that whispers, and the fear that paralyzes the heart's ability to trust. Today, we are opening a door not into mere theological discussion, but into the sacred, private counsels given by Jesus Christ himself to Saint Faustina Kowalska. This is the secret plan revealed to the Apostle of Divine Mercy, a spiritual strategy designed specifically to silence the loud demanding voice of your own discouragement. Saint Faustina, whom the Lord called his secretary, received not just visions of splendor, but precise, practical instructions on how to wage the internal warfare necessary to achieve deep, unshakable tranquility. The mystical path is often fraught with darkness and confusion, and Jesus knew that those souls dedicated to him needed an anchor against the terrible storms of psychological fear and spiritual desolation. The revelations we explore today are not the most widely known passages of her diary. They are hidden keys intended for souls struggling right now against the tyranny of a worried spirit. We will look beyond the simple requests for trust and enter into the heart of the revelation regarding the merit of silence, the divine view of distrustful anxiety, and the three powerful shields against the spirit of despair that Jesus instructed Faustina to deploy. Imagine receiving a map directly from heaven, charting the specific spiritual pitfalls designed to rob you of peace. That is what these words are. They serve as a sacred mirror, reflecting the exact nature of the spiritual noise that consumes our prayer life, demanding we trade confidence for caution. We must recognize that the mind's anxious clamor is often more than just distraction. Sometimes it is a spiritual wound, an internal signal of a deeper lack of reliance on the one who controls every tomorrow. If you are yearning for that deep interior calm, if you are new here, subscribe to stay connected with these sacred revelations. We begin our journey not by trying to forcefully silence the mind, but by understanding the core problem. We must understand how Jesus views the relentless internal turmoil, the wound of distrust, and why our constant anxiety is often perceived by the divine heart as a resistance to his unfathomable kindness. Let us listen closely to the words spoken in the depths of Faustina's cell, words intended for every soul battered by fear. We are seeking stillness, peace that calms the racing current of our thoughts. When we look inward, we find a whirlwind of anxieties, the worry about tomorrow, the fear of failure, the echoes of past mistakes demanding our attention. We often treat this inner racket as a purely psychological issue, something to be managed by sheer willpower or disciplined thought. But Santa Faustina received a profound, startling secret that reframes this entire struggle, teaching us exactly why our minds are so relentlessly noisy. The core reason for spiritual turbulence is often a failure to trust in the absolute goodness and power of God. The noise in your heart, the persistent anxiety that whispers doubts about divine providence, is not merely a distraction for you. It is, tragically, a wound inflicted upon the heart of Christ himself. Listen closely to these sacred words revealed to the saint. The lack of trust on the part of souls wounds me most painfully. Pause, and let the gravity of that declaration settle upon you. Jesus is saying that the coldness of our hearts, the hesitation to leap fully into his protection, causes him greater suffering than the public spectacle of sins committed in weakness. We obsess over sins of action, but the Lord laments the sin of inaction, the failure to rely upon him utterly. Your internal dialogue, when it becomes frantic, is often an indicator of spiritual self-reliance. The subtle belief that you must calculate the future, because perhaps God is not capable of handling this specific detail of your life. This anxious self-sufficiency is what pains him most keenly. It suggests a limit to his power or a condition upon his love. When we worry relentlessly, we are essentially telling the Lord that we do not believe his promise is large enough to encompass our particular trouble. This realization transforms our anxiety from a personal flaw into a direct act of spiritual opposition to his desire for intimacy. Faustina's writings make it clear that the adversary capitalizes on this weakness too. Satan constantly tempts souls to distrust, especially those striving for holiness. He knows that if he can paralyze you with worry about the next hour, he has effectively cut off the flow of grace in the present one. The devil whispers, "Look at the size of your burden. Remember that time you failed." God is too busy for this small, noisy detail. He attempts to convince the soul that God's power is somehow finite, bounded by human reason, or that his goodness is conditional upon our performance. The immediate spiritual remedy when this noise starts, the quick spiritual antidote, is not to argue with the intrusive thought. It is to recognize the source of the injury. When anxiety wells up, you are facing a moment of decision. Will you keep tending to this wound of distrust by engaging the worry, or will you offer Jesus an act of perfect reliance, even if your feelings scream the opposite? To silence the mind, we must first accept that we cannot truly silence it ourselves. We must give the Lord the very chaos we carry. Jesus revealed to Faustina the power of offering our weakness. He desires to become the manager of our spiritual finances, the quiet orchestrator of our destiny. When the mind is a marketplace of worry, offer him the specific noise. Say simply, silently, and with immense resolve, "Lord, this anxiety is my lack of trust in your goodness. I surrender this lack of trust to you now. Use it as a means to increase your grace in my life." We must remember that faith is not a sentiment, it is an act of the will, chosen precisely when the soul feels the most destitute, the most alone, and the most besieged by the roaring waves of apprehension. It is in this radical surrender of self-protection that the heart of Christ finds relief, and in turn, our soul finds rest. The constant stream of worry is an invitation to heal that deepest wound, the wound of doubt, by replacing noise with the quiet confidence that he holds everything, even the things we fear to name. He waits only for us to stop grasping so tightly onto the uncertain future. If the first secret to inner peace is recognizing the deep spiritual wound of distrust, the next stage of healing requires us to identify exactly where that wound festers. For most earnest souls seeking God, the greatest noise generated in the interior life is not the pain of the present difficulty, but the terrible, amplified echo of future fear. It is the anxiety of trials that have not yet materialized, the burdens we borrow from a tomorrow that may never come. This torment, Jesus showed Santa Faustina, is completely unnecessary, a fruitless labor that consumes the soul's energy and robs it of actual merit. The Lord revealed to the saint that much of our stress comes from trying to operate outside the zone of supplied grace. We must understand a critical spiritual principle. Grace is time-sensitive. The assistance necessary to carry the cross of next Tuesday is unavailable to us today. He instructed her to live solely within the boundaries of the present hour. He taught her that anticipating crosses, dwelling on hypotheticals, or attempting to solve problems that lie weeks ahead is a profound lack of submission to his timing and his providence. When we fret about the future, we attempt to lift burdens without the necessary divine support. We attempt to walk through darkness before the lamp for that specific path has been lit. This explains the tremendous spiritual exhaustion many experience. They are trying to carry weights meant for later, weights for which the supernatural strength has not yet been assigned. In her mystical experiences, the saint came to understand the deep geometry of the soul's relationship with time. God does not give us graces in bulk. He provides them precisely in the needed quantity for the moment at hand. She wrote of the profound realization that it takes so little effort to make the passing moments precious. How does one achieve this sanctuary of the present moment? By focusing utterly and completely on the duty of the hour with purity of intention. If the duty of this exact moment is to pray, then every single thought, desire, and energy must be poured into that prayer. If the immediate duty is manual labor, then that labor must become the entire spiritual universe. This immediate focus on the tangible, current responsibility, the smallest act done perfectly for him, is the mechanism by which the soul silences the roar of future anxieties. When the mind begins to rush ahead, projecting scenarios of illness, financial disaster, or spiritual failure. It is stepping outside the sacred territory of grace. The path back to immediate peace is radical simplicity. Ask only, what does Jesus require of me in this minute? If we pour our entire will and our entire love into that small requirement, we find the grace is perfectly sufficient. The noise subsides because we are no longer trying to manage God's schedule. The present moment is the only piece of eternity given to us for our salvation, and Jesus asks for nothing more than the current offering. When we stop trying to live tomorrow's troubles today, the mind falls into a deep, astonished silence, realizing how much energy was spent fighting shadows. This reliance on the quiet, simple grace of the here and now, however, prepares the soul for another profound mystery of the interior life, the often hidden merit, found even in the painful absence of feeling. There is a profound mystery that few souls contemplate when the mind begins its anxious, internal clamor. We often understand noise as the distraction of the world or the worry over tomorrow. But the most agonizing noise of all is the spiritual noise, the feeling of utter, cold abandonment, the desolation that whispers, God is gone, and you are unworthy of his remembrance. When the soul enters this desert, the mind can become the loudest tormentor, accusing us that our faith is empty, our prayers are futile, and our spiritual journey is a failure because we feel no warmth, no consolation, and no presence. This is the ultimate test of fidelity. And Saint Faustina received a luminous secret regarding this interior suffering. Jesus did not promise her a life perpetually sweetened by ecstasy. Rather, he revealed that the highest merit is harvested precisely when the sweetness is removed. He taught Faustina that spiritual dryness and the feeling of separation are not signs of his disapproval, but opportunities for a love utterly purified. Consider this sacred instruction. My daughter, do not be afraid of spiritual desertions. If I myself do not take away the feeling of my presence, it is impossible for you to lose it. But sometimes I allow this trial for the growth of your love. Diary, 1680, emphasizing the growth aspect. This means the silence of God is a divine pedagogical tool. When your mind screams with doubt because you cannot feel the Lord, and yet you still choose to remain kneeling, still choose to perform the required duties, still choose to trust, that single act of perseverance is worth more than 1,000 prayers offered in ecstatic joy. It is easy to love when the heart is overflowing with grace, but to act out of duty and pure love when the spirit is cold and dark, that is where true spiritual treasure is created. Jesus confirmed this immense value of pure, unrewarded love. He told Faustina that when a soul acts purely for his sake, deprived of all inner sweetness, it is the most valuable sacrifice she can offer. The inner voice of despair demands gratification. It insists that if God truly loved you, he would give you consolation and peace. The merit of silence, however, is the deliberate refusal to listen to that demanding voice. It is the quiet internal offering that says, I will serve you, my God, even if you send me no light, even if I feel abandoned, for my love is based on your truth, not on my passing feeling. This silent enduring, this patient waiting in the dark night of the soul, is an act of perfect obedience. It is a profound surrender that truly stills the frantic noise of the questioning mind. Why? Because the mind often seeks control, demanding proof through feeling. When we refuse to demand the proof and simply endure in trust, we silence the most insidious form of pride, the desire to manage our own spiritual rewards. Understand this. During times of desolation, your merit is immense. Every small act of fidelity performed in the absence of spiritual light demands an extraordinary effort of the will, and therefore it accumulates grace far beyond what happy, easy devotion provides. The Lord assured Faustina that even if she felt his love was absent, it remained steadfastly in her heart. He knows the suffering of the empty heart. When you refuse to abandon the path just because the road feels barren, you are enacting the highest form of love known to the spiritual life, a pure love that seeks no reward but the will of the beloved. If your mind is screaming that you are a failure because you feel nothing, recognize that those feelings are precisely the crucible in which God is refining your faith into purified gold. Endure in that quiet space of trust. This silence of submission is the secret weapon against the debilitating noise of doubt and despair. Há paradoxo poderoso na vida espiritual que poucas almas consideram. Quando somos oprimidos pela terrível barulheira de nossas próprias deficiências, quando a voz interior da crítica e da condenação ameaça nos engolir por inteiro, nossa tendência natural é nos recolher, remoer e examinar nossas feridas sem parar. Contudo, o remédio fornecido a Santa Faustina por Nosso Senhor é um redirecionamento radical do olhar da alma. Ele não nos pediu para sentirmos paz imediatamente. Ele nos pediu para agirmos. Nosso Salvador revelou que a defesa mais formidável contra o espírito de desespero, a cerca espiritual que afasta as sombras, é a prática ativa da misericórdia. Ele deu a São Faustina uma ordem explícita que serve como um antídoto imediato ao foco interno excessivo. Ele comandou: exijo de ti obras de misericórdia, que hão de brotar do amor por mim. Deves mostrar misericórdia aos teus vizinhos, sempre e em toda parte. Não podes te desculpar, nem te esquivar deste meu mandamento. Esta misericórdia deve se tornar visível, tangível. Ele insistiu que a praticássemos em 3 formas indispensáveis: por obra, por palavra e por oração. Pense nisso como um tratamento de choque espiritual. Quando a mente corre desenfreada com acusações, volte-se imediatamente para o próximo sofredor. O menor ato de ajuda prática, uma obra verdadeira, tira a alma de sua miséria autocentrada e a ancora na realidade externa. Às vezes, somos incapazes de realizar uma obra física. É aí que a instrução do Senhor sobre a misericórdia por palavra se torna fundamental. Significa oferecer um comentário reconfortante, falar uma palavra de encorajamento a uma alma desanimada ou simplesmente abster-se de um discurso de julgamento. Ao silenciar o ruído externo, o clamor interno também pode diminuir. E a terceira cerca, a misericórdia pela oração, é talvez a mais oculta e poderosa. Quando você não pode ajudar fisicamente, quando as palavras falham, você sempre pode interceder. Este ato de substituição espiritual, oferecer o próprio coração e sofrimento por outro, é um ato de profundo esvaziamento do eu que instantaneamente desinfla o ego e a autocomiseração que alimentam o desespero. Esta é a promessa do Senhor que ataca a raiz do barulho mental. Ainda que a alma fosse um cadáver em putrefação, completamente sem esperança de renovação, tudo voltaria a erguer-se da minha misericórdia. O segredo para silenciar a mente não é a introspecção incessante sobre suas falhas, mas sim o foco ativo e imediato no vasto e inesgotável oceano da sua misericórdia, praticado ativamente em relação a outra alma. A alma mais barulhenta é a que está mais fechada em si mesma. O Senhor nos dá essas 3 cercas para forçar a porta de nosso coração a se abrir e o foco de nossa mente a se expandir. E quando a misericórdia é o nosso trabalho, o passado perde seu poder de nos acorrentar ao desespero. The mind that is still haunted by failure finds its ultimate refuge not in philosophical reflection, but in a divine encounter, while the devil loves to torment the soul by constantly replaying its worst moments. Our Lord established a place on earth where the past is not merely excused but utterly obliterated. This place, Santa Faustina reveals, is the sacred secret of the confessional. Jesus calls this sanctuary not a court of judgment, but truly the throne of grace. He explained to her that when a soul approaches this sacrament, he himself waits, cloaked in profound love, desiring only to heal the wounds that self-accusation keeps fresh. He told the sister, and through her, he tells us, "When you go to confession, know this, that I myself am waiting for you in the confessional. I am only hidden by the priest, but I myself act in your soul." Think about the weight of that statement. The voice of absolution is not merely the voice of a man, but the actual, living presence of the Savior, yearning to bring complete silence to the clamor of self-condemnation. He goes further, demanding that the soul approach him with radical, boundless confidence, regardless of how dark its history may seem. He declares that in this sacred space, here the miracles of my mercy are repeated, Tell souls that from this fount of mercy, souls draw graces solely with the vessel of trust. If they are very trusting, there is no limit to my generosity. The true spiritual application for silencing the internal noise is recognizing that the sin you confessed no longer exists in the divine memory. It is the adversary who reminds you of your faults after confession, because God Himself has chosen to forget them entirely. Run to this throne, drop the heavy bag of past guilt there, and discover the profound peace that only erasure, performed by the hand of the divine physician, can provide. This peace is the bedrock upon which genuine inner stillness rests, preparing us for the ultimate surrender required for the journey ahead. We have traveled deep into the sanctuary of these holy revelations, guided by the very words spoken from the heart of Jesus to Saint Faustina. We have learned that our internal noise is often the external manifestation of distrust, and that the ultimate armor against despair is the simplicity of living strictly in the present moment. We recognized that the merit in spiritual desolation is found not in feeling God's presence, but in silently, persistently choosing His will. The Lord gave us the three great fences of mercy, mercy in deed, in word, and in prayer, to protect our souls from the greatest threat of all, the collapse of hope. Now, as we close this sacred conversation, let us embrace the ultimate secret for true peace. The mind becomes noisy when the soul tries to manage the weight of God's plan, taking on responsibilities meant only for the Creator. But the Lord told Faustina a profound truth about enduring even the worst internal storms. He revealed, although the soul is filled with great sadness, and although various fears torment it, it must abandon itself completely to the will of God. Abandonment. This is the final key to silencing the internal accuser. The devil knows that if he can convince you to carry the weight of your own salvation, you will break. He floods your soul with anxieties about your past sins, doubts about your future merit, and fear concerning the spiritual dryness of today. He wants you to believe that the silence of God is a sign of rejection, but it is not. The silence is often the sound of God working deeply within the foundations of your soul, strengthening them without the disturbance of palpable consolation. Do not listen to the clamor that tries to pull you away from the throne of grace. When your mind argues fiercely, accusing you of imperfection and unworthiness, turn your interior gaze to the simple fact of His unending, measureless mercy. Recognize that every fear, every worry about tomorrow, is just a misplaced act of faith. Faith placed in your own ability to control or understand, rather than faith placed in the divine lover who holds all moments in His hands. The greatest act of silence you can perform is the silencing of self-judgment, the silencing of the demand for immediate clarity, and the silencing of the insistent question, why? Allow the love of Jesus to occupy the place of your ceaseless concerns. Let Him be the quiet that fills the empty spaces. Do not wrestle with the darkness. Simply turn toward the light. This trust, this abandonment, is the sweet resting place of the soul. Remember the great promise of mercy. It is a refuge not just for sinners, but for the worried, the anxious, and the despairing. Receive this gift of spiritual silence that Jesus offers today. Let us commit ourselves to this profound, silencing trust. Type in the comments right now and claim this grace. Type, "My mind belongs to mercy."